Hello and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. Obviously, this is now the second stream of today. And of course, this is your standard Xbox lunch break special. I'm your host, Mr. BoomStick XL. Apologies for being a little red in the face. I just finished doing biceps and I'm a bit spent, but we are here to talk about video games. And of course, we're awaiting Fuzzy Belvedere to join us. We have two killer topics. Now, what I want to do is I kind of want to go into my DMs. I want to read what those topics are because you heard me say this earlier. I am in the camp of taking a small piece of news, piling it or compiling it with other things that, will make a bigger story. And look, right now, the hottest brand that everyone continues to talk about is Xbox. Yes, I get it. They're in third place. I absolutely get it, ladies and gentlemen, that they have been on their deathbed for, years now. And look, the truth of the matter is that in some instances, they have put themselves in this position, right? Whether you agree or disagree on third party or multi-plat, however you want to angle it, there are a lot of conversations to be had here. There is no doubt about it. But in the interim, as you saw by the title, exclusives versus timed exclusives, which path should Xbox take? That is one of the topics. And the other topic is new leadership brings a renewed focus to Xbox hardware. And it's a story that broke over the weekend. And right now it is targeting specific players that are still on the Xbox One, S, and X models are getting a message, and they're getting offered the Xbox Series X for a really big discount. We're going to get into that story as well. And look, again, it's just an advertisement, but I think that Asha being in position or in this new position is going to bring new ideas and a new focus. And why I bring that to your attention is because we have two different stories here. And one of which is from windowscentral.com. We're going to get into it as soon as Fuddy gets in here. And it was an interview that was done by Christopher Dring. Now, you know how I feel about that man. I don't like his work. I don't like giving him any credit because he is a troll. He is a troll that goes out of his way to use clickbaitery to get people to read his stories. Well, the story that I pulled from was from Windows Central, which how I feel about them and the journalists there, including Jez Corden of that for that matter. And I'm going to use their story and I will link it, which again, they politely linked Christopher Dring's story. So if you want to go and watch a troll at work, you can go and you can do that on your own time. And you can do that through the Windows Central story. But that's not the only person that talked about Asha, meaning, of course, Zelnick. Now, we'll get into it again. I'm just waiting for my panel to get here. And here he is, speak of the devil, best bald head in the business, Fuzzy Belvedere. Brother, we have a lot to cover in the next, 75, 80 minutes. And I want to start with, let's get into your introduction. How you feeling, brother? Welcome back, and thanks again for joining me earlier.
Yeah, I'm great. Glad to be here with you. Yeah, it's been great seeing positive news for Xbox. I know there's a lot of people that want to claim it's dead. It's the living zombie that we all know and love kind of thing. But yeah, it's great to see that they're making announcements, and we're here to talk about them and what to look forward to between these showcases, the main one in June and this partner one coming up here soon.
Indeed. So, folks, before you ask, and I know somebody's going to ask, and you should ask because this game's incredible. This is called Achilles Survivors, and I think it's about $8. And I'm telling you right now, if you are a fan of Diablo, if you are a fan of RTS type of games, if you are a fan of Vampire Survivors, this game is for you because it mixes all three of those genres together. Obviously, you have ridiculous powers. As you can see, he has like this death stink. It's a skeleton that I used. And he goes around collecting these orbs like you would in Vampire Survivors. But you see all the white things around, like with the poles and the stakes. those become the RTS aspect of you, because you make these like the different weapons. Some of them are catapults, some of them are flamethrowers. I mean, it's one of my favorite games of last year. And if you are looking for a Vampire Survivors type game with more realistic Diablo type graphics, this is definitely for you. But let's welcome in. We have already 155 people. We're only 6 minutes in, and Mrs. Boom and I are always going to be grateful and gracious for the fact that we do have an audience that tunes in for each and every show, and we thank you so much for being here. But Fuzzy Belvedere, what I want to start off with is a particular topic that I think is relevant to current events. Now, over the weekend, we started seeing reports of game players on Xbox One X and S consoles taking screenshots because they were being advertised the Xbox Series X consoles. Now, I have that in front of me. I'm not going to throw it up on the screen. When I do the video, obviously, I will do that. But it has here a just for you picture. And it has 4 different Xbox Series X consoles, heavily discounted, by the way, on the screen for the potential customer to look at. And they have one that is an Xbox Series X, and it says, introducing the Xbox Series X, the fastest, most powerful Xbox ever. And it has a discounted price of $396.49, which, according to what the sales paper says, well, the sales advertisement says in front of me, you can save 39%. Ends in 24 days is when the sale ends. It also has here a 4 different models, 2 whites and 2 of the black models, and the prices vary. Now, again, I'm going to throw this up on the video aspect of this because we are going to go into, I am going to make videos of this. But Fuzzy Belvedere, as interesting as the sale of the Series X consoles is, as exciting as it may be for new players who have been waiting for a sale on these excellent consoles, that's a part of the story. So if you go back a week, we had a story here written by Adam Hales, published on March 18th, right? So that's about 5 days ago, give or take, right? And the lead, of course, WindowsCentral.com. I will add this to the show notes so you could read it for yourself. And it says this: Take-Two CEO backs Asha Sharma. And he quotes, "I'm going to bet on her continuing to do great." And then subtext says, Take-Two CEO Strauss Zelnick shares his thoughts on Xbox's new leader, Asha Sharma, offering support and explaining why it really matters when running, or what really matters when running a games business. Now, I want to read a little bit of what they have Zelnick quoted here, Fuzzy. And you know what? Let me start at the beginning, because Windows Central is not the organization that did this report. No, this came the way of an interview via Christopher Dring. And like I said in the opening, I'm not going to fling, poo or anything, but I don't like him as a journalist. He's a troll. And he has gone out of his way to misinform and misrepresent Xbox. And I don't know why. I'm assuming it's for the click, because obviously he is doing his own thing. He's independent now. He has his own company. And I'm not surprised by some of his allegations or suggestions, but when asked specifically about the skill set for Asha Sharma, well, here is how Zelnick, who of course is in charge of Take-Two and has one of the biggest games in the universe releasing this year in Grand Theft Auto 6, had to say. And he says this, the article says this: in an interview, Christopher Dring asked Zelnick for his thoughts on Asha Sharma, noting that, quote, she's new to the industry, she's not a gamer, and it's triggered a conversation around whether those things are important for the role. Well, Zelnick responds with a clear encouragement of the new Xbox lead. And Fuzzy in chat, this is what he had to say. Well, first of all, I don't think the newly appointed head of Xbox needs any advice from me. So let's just start there. This highly accomplished executive who's done just great without ever hearing or met me, I'm going to bet on her continuing to do great. Now, there is a more lengthy quote here. And according to the article, Zelnick does go on to expand slightly, shifting towards his broader view of leadership. And this is what he had to say, Fuzzy. With all of that said, look, our recipe for success around here is to be the most creative, be the most innovative, be the most efficient. And you'd want to study the dynamics of the business. The individual you mentioned, in fact, has operated successfully in any number of different businesses. I can't imagine she wouldn't be examining the underlying dynamics of the business. And then when you know to lean them, okay, I can't imagine that she wouldn't be examining the underlying dynamics of the business. And then, lean into them. But at the end of the day, what drives success in our business is making the best entertainment. Now, what's interesting here is we got some information from a ex-poster. His name is Joe Galetto. He is from Spain. So I have this translated from Spanish or from Spanish into English. And it's very interesting because not only did Zelnick have a lot of really encouraging and powerful opinions on Asha Sharma on how she is going to run Xbox. Well, it doesn't stop there. Apparently, she's been meeting with the CEO, the CEO of gaming and if you want to know who that is, well, that's Greg Peters of Netflix. He's the co-CEO. And what's interesting is what he had to say, Fuzzy Belvedere. He says this: she came in with a vision that the Xbox division has been managed quite defensively and cautiously over the last 2 years. According to what Joe had to say, it says this: according to Peters, Sharma is looking to revive the investment model for growth, leaving behind the brutal cuts policy, mass layoffs, cancellations, and forced ports that defined the previous era. Now, what he's referring to when he says previous era is who was in charge when this was all happening. That was Phil Spencer and, of course, Sarah Bond. And look, he goes on to point out that the growth model equals injecting serious cash into new projects, aggressive expansion, and betting big to gain long-term market share. And why all of this, Fuzzy, goes together is something that we know that they moved away from: hardware. Now, granted, I saw some people in the chat, I saw some people online, saying, well, I didn't see a sale. And there was somebody in the chat from the earlier show we did at 10 a.m. where they said, well, I'm in the UK, I'm waiting for a sale, and when I see one, I'm going to get a Series X. So the sale that I brought up, that I will, of course, add to the show notes so you could see for yourself, and will add in video format, are for current customers of Xbox playing on older hardware. And look, this may not be the biggest story of the day, and it's not. It is a piece of what we're doing here today. The bigger story is going to be the opinion of both myself and Fuzzy and the chat. And we're going to get into exclusives versus timed exclusives and why a change in leadership makes that a relevant conversation today. This is just a sample of what we're getting into, but I still think, Fuzzy, that it is worthy of a conversation because you have two CEOs of two mega corporations, right? The co-CEO of Netflix has high remarks for Asha Sharma. Of course, and Zelnick himself also backed her. And this is coming off of what I thought was, a little bit trolly from Christopher Durang. To be honest with you, he's basically he brought it up and he was shut down immediately. about the fact that she, meaning Asha, doesn't have gaming experience, is not a gamer. Well, you know what's interesting? Zelnick, who was very famously said, I'm not a gamer either. I'm not here to play games. I'm here to make money for my investors. And that's exactly what he seemed like he was saying to me. But I want to get your thoughts on it because, again, maybe if I'm saying it, no one gives a shit. Like, oh, BoomStick, he's probably just kissing her ass because he wants a free game or something. That's not the case, folks. I'm here because I'm an Xbox fan. I have 3 shows per week because I love the brand and will continue to play on this brand. But when there are stories from, reputable places on the interweb like a Windows Central, and you're getting people like the co-CEO of Netflix and, of course, the CEO of Take-Two have positive things to say about the new leadership and her take on how that's going to be. I actually think it's a conversation to be had. So let me get your thoughts on this.
Well, yeah, I mean, one of them being a kind of competitor slash counterpart or partner in Take-Two with Zelnick, and the other one with Netflix. It's kind of more of a competitor because of the streaming service, the cloud gaming and stuff that they are doing as well. I mean, there's also the partnership as far as having the Netflix app on Xbox consoles, but that's mainly for the movie streaming stuff. But these are CEOs that are in the nature of the business, maybe not necessarily knee deep in gaming culture and things along those lines, but they know how to make the numbers go up basically. And giving this new CEO for Xbox that they're probably going to have to make some either business deals with or, work on future contracts and things like that. They're giving her the benefit of the doubt and pushing back on some of the, I guess you could say, console war narrative. Sure, it would be great if we had a CEO that's also a gamer. We had that with Phil, but with the new changes, maybe it's a better approach to not have a gamer at the helm, primarily because a gamer is going to be more focused on maybe one particular thing or several things that, well, yes, they'll be relevant to us gamers, but in the grand scheme of things, that's not necessarily attracting new customers or appealing to that customer base that's outside of the console, that's on their cell phones or tablets or on their PC or handheld PCs. What would bring those potential customers into the fold? So I like that there's 2 different perspectives from, not really opposite ends, but different ends of the business. And what she's accomplished in her previous, duties, as far as whether it's in AI or I believe she was also in other tech or like asset management company before she came to Microsoft. So in those types of businesses, she succeeded. We hope that she succeeds with this as far as growing the brand and bringing it more to the forefront, and then kind of squashing some of these narratives, not to throw shade at During or anything like that, but he seems to always try to go for the gotcha question, to like stick it to the Xbox name brand or anything. And it's like, it'd be curious to see if he tries that when or if he ever gets an interview directly with Asha or any other high Xbox officials after the changeover. Prior, I'm pretty sure he had a couple of interviews and things, but we'll see how they treat him, moving forward. But yeah, it's good to hear somebody that's in that kind of hot seat giving his spiel, and the same thing with the guy at Netflix. So I don't know why Ring or any of the other gaming media aren't necessarily focused on, hey, maybe this change is a breath of fresh air as opposed to doom and gloom. It just feels like there's so much of that in the hobby right now, whether it's, oh, they didn't, show this game on a standard console before release. It's only been shown on the Pro and PC. And it's like, yes, the game has some issues to it, but in the grand scheme of things, a lot of people are having fun with it as long as they're, the game is able to start up. So they got some patches fixed and things along those lines, but it just feels like the gaming media as a whole is more about the pile on effect or the negative, news click type of thing. I know if it bleeds, it leads kind of deal, but this hobby is supposed to be fun. It's not meant for like gossip and
Thank you.
drama and stuff like that. It's supposed to be like, hey, I got this game, I'm having a ton of fun, you should try this game. Or I got this game, didn't land like I had hoped. Maybe it's for you, it's definitely not for me, and here's why. I think that approach would probably pull us through these upcoming years and make the time fly by. So if you're waiting for things like Forza Horizon 6 like I am, or if you're waiting for GTA 6 or any number of games that are on the horizon, maybe the time will fly by a bit faster if it's less drama, less negativity, and more on the focus of the potential or things we would like to see with these changes, whether it's in leadership or just in how they're announcing showcases and stuff. But yeah, it's good to see Zelnick kind of stand up for other CEOs, and same with the one from Netflix. It's hopefully during. Oh, I know he's not going to learn his lesson. He'll be back at it probably as we speak. He's probably writing how the partner showcase is bad for gaming because of XYZ narrative he'll come up with. So it is what it is.
Well, it's a shame. Like I said, journalists, and I really do use the terminology loosely, okay, who are independent, understand that they're not under someone getting a paycheck. They have to go out and they have to make their money. Now, we've seen this done to great degree with a former IGNer known as Destin Legary. Now, Destin, and shout out to him, man. The guy's been killing it with the content. The minute he went independent, I supported him on Patreon without a doubt. Because I like Destin. I think Destin's a really good journalist. I think that sometimes, I guess everyone does this. You tiptoe on the edge of, console war-y nonsense. But to be honest with you, I really do enjoy his content, and I watch most of it. Now, occasionally, it's just some stuff I won't watch because I'm like, I know what the outcome is and whatever. But for the most part, I do like his content. And he's independent. So obviously, he's using Patreon. He's using the fact that again, shout out to him. He posted on X the other day that he had 1 million views in the month of March. That's insane. I'm not being facetious. We have 8.5 plus million views in 8 years. For us, we're like mom and pop size. So that's a big deal for us. For him to get 1 million in a month is just insanity. And that just goes to show you that people are watching his stuff. So again, shout out to Destin Legary. But I am very excited for the future. I do like the idea that they have gone back to making hardware important. How much further they're going to take this with the Series X and S consoles, well, only time is going to tell. And again, I just want this to be completely clear. And I keep saying this, but I don't want to sound like a broken record. I say it for context. This is a woman that has come into the position only a month. She's not even fully a month in the position. And she's already making great strides to, engage with the games community, do interviews, go to GDC. She's probably going to be there in June, I would imagine. She might even lead the conversation or be one of the leaders in the video that's going to be pre-recorded for this week's developer direct. Not developer direct, partner direct. So, she is doing things to change it up. And again, I just want this to be clear. No one has on this channel, and nobody on my panel has ever thrown either Phil Spencer or Sarah Bond under the bus. They are legends in Xbox land, and they're not going to be replaced. But changes had to be made. They would still be there if what they were doing was working. That's not a slight. That's not thrown under the bus. We all know this. And Fuzzy, we're going to segue into our next topic, and this is a big one, folks. While we get Fuzzy involved, I'm going to throw a poll up because I want to get the actual pulse of people that are here wanting to talk about this. And that's exclusives versus timed exclusives. Now, again, we're going to have a starting spot and we're going to have a checkered flag ending to this conversation because I want to start off with an article here. And okay, this one, of course, comes the way of VGC.com or VideoGamesChronicles.com, written by Tom Ivan. Now, you might be asking, boom, when was this article written? Well, this was written quite a bit ago. December 16th of 2024. And there's a reason for it, folks, and I'm reading this article. It goes on to say, quote, Xbox won't have exclusives going forward. It's been claimed. And then in subtext, it says all Xbox first-party games are reportedly being planned for PlayStation 2, meaning as well. And I bring this up. Because this is where the loss of the diehard fan base started. Now, I know a lot of people are going to go back to just 4 games, and Phil said that. And at the time, I believe he meant it. I'm not suggesting that he didn't. But I want to read a little bit from the article because it's important for the context of this conversation. And it says, quote, Xbox won't have exclusives going forward. Everything is timed exclusive at the most, he claimed. For some gamers, our exclusive is going to be incidental at best. The case-by-case argument is, by and large, going to be multi-plat, timed with maybe a few, very few outliers. And this is coming the way of Jez Corden of Windows Central, who is reporting upon this. And it goes on to say further, and responding to a user who said that they didn't believe Xbox's upcoming Fable game would come to PlayStation, Corden wrote, that game was monstrously expensive. It may not be day one, but it'll come with a current plan in place, in my opinion. And he is right, because that game, as it stands, is still planned to release this year on PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 5 Pro. Now, you got to remember, this article is old, right? It's from December of 2014. Well, fast forward, Fuzzy Belvedere, to where we are today. And another interesting story that I saw some people talk about, but not a lot of people. And that goes for journalists as well as trolls. And it turns out that a big story that wasn't covered as much as it probably should have been is the fact that Starfield is the number 1 selling and paid for game on PlayStation 5 right now. That's not a suggestion. That is facts, ladies and gentlemen. Now, what does that mean? Well, that is a part of the bigger question that we're going to be asking here today. And that is whether or not Xbox exclusives versus Xbox timed exclusives, which path should Xbox take? Now, old leadership was putting games everywhere. And I saw some people in the chat that suggest that should still be the path. But I have to add a caveat here. New leadership brings new ideas, different vision, right? Well, another piece of caveat that I'd like to bring into the conversation is an unconfirmed story. And I don't have it in front of me, but I will bring it up when I make a video out of this so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. And that is the original report from Jason Schreier, where he believed, based on the people that he spoke to within PlayStation, that they were moving or pulling away from releasing single-player, first-party, story-driven games on PC. Now, I have a thought and theory. You've heard me say it already. I'll make mention of it just for context. I think they're building their own PC store to sell, simply because at that point, if they were to sell a game like Wolverine, for instance, on PC through their PC launcher and not on Steam, they would get 100%. And why that's important is because they have to pay 30% to Steam. They also have to pay 35% of the sale to Marvel for that licensed IP. That is a big part of reduction, or a big part of the reduction that they would get in profit. So it makes dollars and cents, right? Doesn't it? I mean, again, I'm no mathematician, folks, and I certainly don't have a business degree, but if you could launch your own PC launcher and get 100% of the monies, that 35% that you have to pay Marvel, it hurts, but it's not as bad as having to pay 30% to Steam, 35% to Marvel, and you're left with the rest of the monies. So you see why they're doing it. It makes perfect sense. Okay, so let's just say for shits and giggles, Fuzzy Belvedere. So this is going to be a multi-layered conversation. We'll start here. And let's start with talking about PlayStation and their rumored plans. Now, I saw something earlier. I did not get this from a journalist, but there is a rumor floating around the interwebs, depending on what socials you like to hang out with, that later today, Sony is going to confirm that they have removed their first-party games, or will no longer be putting their first-party games like a Soros, like a Wolverine, on Steam. Now, that is a rumor. I saw that. I do not have that confirmed from anybody. And if it does get confirmed at some point this week, we will discuss. But it is a rumor. So my question, and again, this is one of 3 questions I have for the chat as well as Fuzzy Belvedere, is Microsoft, specifically Xbox, is going to have to respond to this. Because again, if you're in the chat and you are 10 toes down, boom, exclusives don't mean anything to me, because I hear you. I understand what you're saying. But if this exclusivity of a game didn't matter, then Sony, who is the number 1 selling console of the 3 platforms right now today, would not be doing this. There are reasons. So let's start off with the fact that if this does happen, how does and how should Asha, Sharma, and the new team at Xbox respond?
That's a tough one. Like, just touching base on the PlayStation rumor, it just feels like another one of these made up things. And the reason why I say that, although I know there's some that hear the buzz on stuff as far as like showcases or state of plays and things like that, not necessarily seeing those same individuals say this, but if they were going to announce it, well, I guess the big thing is, how do you go about announcing that, oh, we're no longer, moving forward, putting stuff on PC, as opposed to the way Sony would normally do things is just be like, well, you got your answer when it doesn't come to PC. You can sit there and wait and, whatnot. But even that approach, I don't think would be enough to, push people over the edge if they don't already have a PS5 to buy that PS5. They already sold a good bit of them. Right now, their best bet is to continue focusing on the PS4 owners to get them, into a PS5. Trying to convince a PC player that doesn't want to bother with a console to buy a PS5 is probably a much taller order than anyone wants to think. But I think if this should wind up being true, that they're going to make an official statement that they're no longer putting their single player games on PC, which it's going to be funny because they're, partnered, Money Hatted games will still go to PC that are single player, and they're still going to want to do the multi-platform stuff for the, for the games as a service stuff. So they have, incoming revenue from, various, sources. It's going to be funny on how that one game a year or maybe 2 games a year at max winds up looking over, like, let's say the next 5 to 10 years. As far as like a PC storefront, I agree with some in the chat. It is, while I can see them doing it, and I know that they were working on that, it is a bit of a tall order considering how light their library is in comparison to something like Ubisoft or even Epic, the way they have their launcher and stuff, or even EA's launcher. So it's having, let's say, 10 or 12 titles that are well revered in your launcher might not be enough to get every PC person to hop over. Now, if they start offering in that launcher a day and date type of deal, then it makes sense. I still think they would still put games on Steam if they were to do that, because you're not going to kiss however many, hundreds of thousands or millions of copies on a similar programmed or ported version on a store that's like the number one store for anything PC related. So if you're going to have that PC launcher, maybe you put it on Steam 6 months later, but have it day and date on your own launcher or something to that effect, or have it where the PSN, well, they're not going to call it PSN anymore. That network, login winds up netting you some either additional skins or DLC, or maybe you get double the achievements or something along those lines. I highly doubt they'll do a dual entitlement like Xbox, but anything could happen, I guess, at that point. But I think as far as Xbox's response, if they want to do a similar pullback, I don't think it's necessarily worthwhile pulling back on PC for the fact that Microsoft is now going to have an Xbox mode for their app, which would kind of contradict if you're making, or not really making, the PC more console-like, but having the PC access a console library possibly. It wouldn't make sense to pull away from that. But as far as your multi-platform stance, it would be nice if they go back to Phil's original words, where games will be exclusive wherever Xbox Game Pass exists, kind of thing. I could see that happening. Or what some people have said is just focus on the Microsoft-owned first-party studios. Bethesda, it could be as case or as per case kind of thing, like they stated long ago. And then Activision is for everybody kind of thing. And I guess if they go that route, I think that's substantial enough where, not that it's going to put Sony on notice, because I don't think really Sony is looking at that, other than they're probably wondering how they can, either move some of those Microsoft titles that are charting very, very high on their sales charts or active user charts and things, where Microsoft is getting 70% and they're only getting 30%. I'm pretty sure they would like to have some of their titles in there so they could get 100% of that. But yeah, I don't think Microsoft really needs to respond to it, other than focus on what the Helix will do as a PC console hybrid. Show that, some of the titles that probably will never come to console, like an Escape from Tarkov, like, we're still kind of waiting to see if WoW ever makes it to console, but things along those lines might be their better bet to focus on games that you won't be able to get on PlayStation. And if you're a PC cat, you'll just have to either go through the Xbox app or however many other launchers out there to access those. But yeah, I'm more of a wait and see. I still don't believe it, because it just doesn't make sense, especially considering how Death Stranding 2 is now going to PC. Yes, that's not their first party, but it's like, okay, you're going to differentiate your first party from a close partner, studio like Kojima. It just feels like that's kind of throwing money away to some extent. But I've been wrong on things before. I'm pretty sure I'll be wrong on things again. So we'll see how it winds up.
Well, as you can see, folks, I added a poll in the chat, and I'm going to read it verbatim. Are Xbox exclusives important to you as a gamer, and why? So the choices were absolutely bring exclusives back. No, exclusives are not important. And in all caps for the third one, this was fun. Bring back the console war. So again, it's just for fun. 61% of the populace. Now we're a small show. I don't even know how many people we have in the chat. Let me go take a quick look. All right, so we have so not bad. 340 people in the chat. I don't know exactly how many people have voted. Let me go and take a look at that. All right, so only 66 people voted. Listen, folks, if you're one of the near 400 people here, vote. Let's get your thoughts and theories about the exclusivity, because this is a big conversation that we're about to have, and it seems like exclusivity being back is shrinking. 53% of people saying absolutely bring exclusives back. No exclusives are not important to me. It's 35% now, and bring back the console war, which of course that one is for fun at 11%. But look, what's interesting with Sony potentially pulling back from PC is a story that I have in front of us from Derek Strickland of Tweaktown, ladies and gentlemen. And of course, everything that we are using today for context will be in the show notes. Obviously, if I use your work, I'm going to promote it. So all the links will be available for you to go read for yourself. So I just want to read the headline and then the context underneath it, just for a conversational piece. So Derek Strickland of Tweaktown goes on to say this: Sony has made at least $2.3 billion selling first-party games on both PC and Xbox. And it goes in the subcategory, the subtext says, new data released by Sony indicates that the company has generated a total of at least $2.3 billion from selling games on both PC and Xbox platforms. Now, why that's important for this particular conversation is them pulling away. Now, whether I don't know, and I'm not being facetious, and I'm certainly not console warring, I'm asking a legitimate question. Will PlayStation gamers be enough to make up the $2.3 billion that is not going to be there if they don't sell their games on Steam and Xbox? Now, there's going to be somebody in the chat, and I can't read it. It's really going fast. But there is going to be someone here that says, well, wait a second, Boom. They're not taking all of their games away. They're taking away the first-party single-player games like Soros and Wolverine. They're going to have their gas games. This is where I say you got to pump the brakes here. What gas games are you talking about? Because if it's Marathon, the numbers can listen. I'm not saying that it's a Concord flop. You're never going to get that out of me. There are people that really like that game, and if you do, that's awesome. It's not for me. I didn't buy it. The numbers continue to shrink, right? They continue to shrink down. Does that mean the game is dead? That means that people have come in, they've played it, they either liked it or they didn't, and if they did like it, they're coming back and they're playing. Awesome. Now, we do know that it has been confirmed that the biggest number of players are on Steam. That's not surprising because, well, Steam is PC, PC is Steam. It's the biggest platform in gaming. But when someone tries to, power block you with the reason why Sony will be okay is because they're going to put their gas games, they only have two, which, again, one did really well for them in Helldivers 2. It has an expansion coming out. It's probably going to bring the players back. Will it be ever as big as it once was? I don't know. I loved every second of it when I played it on PC. I mean, on PS5, and I loved every second of it when I played it on Xbox. It's a phenomenal game. Hard as hell for sure, but a fun game nonetheless. Will Marathon continue to grow? I mean, listen, folks, we got to sit back and we got to watch. But after those two games, they've canceled everything else, and Fair Games. Look, I'm not being a troll here. We have no idea. I mean, Jade Raymond, who founded the studio, is gone. Any thoughts on whether or not that Sony would recover that lost money, Fuzzy?
I don't think they will. I mean, and that's the thing that boggles my mind on this pulling back from PC, and it's part of why I don't believe it. They spent, what was it, $400 million on Concord. Probably another $200 to $300 million on the studio that they closed. They just closed Blue Point. If they're pulling away from PC to some extent, does that really mean that Nixus needs to exist? Sure, there's still going to be the multiplats, but it seems like those multiplats are being made by studios that can do multiplats on their own. I don't know. Fair Game is that one that was supposed to, I think, come out this year, and it's kind of gone radio silent. I guess it's on hold, or they're kind of waiting to see how Marathon does, which I said it from get-go, and I don't like being that doom and gloom type of person like I talked about earlier. I don't think Marathon has but 6 months to it. I think they're kind of forced to kind of keep it going. There is a decent amount of player base, but it's not the player base that they were probably hoping for, especially looking over at something like Arc Raiders. But yeah, we'll see what becomes of Bungie after this. I honestly think they probably need to spin up a PvE only aspect to it to add to it, or to at least get the Destiny crowd that was playing Destiny 2 religiously, a couple of years ago to come back, if that's even a possibility, because it sounds like a lot of those people have either gone back to the Division or they've gone back or gone over to Arc Raiders. But yeah, fair game, all that stuff. I don't think they can recoup that money. I think we'll see more closures if that game winds up still staying radio silent for another several months or so. Like if by July, if we don't hear anything further on fair game, I guess we got our answer that it's quietly canceled, but we'll see.
Well, I mean, it's a great point. So look, let's kind of move over to Xbox now. Right now, I have a story in front of me from, of course, PureXbox.com, written by Fraser Gilbert. Now, this is a little bit old. It's Wednesday, February 25th. Obviously, we're almost at the 25th of March, but there's a reason for this particular article. This is, of course, quoting Asha Sharma, who basically said, when asked about the return of exclusives, he said, the plan is the plan until it's not the plan. We've mentioned that particular quote quite a bit on this channel. There's a reason for us returning to it today, because I understand that it's money in the bank for something like Forza Horizon 6 to come out on PlayStation, right? That makes perfect sense. I've said this before, but I'll reiterate it for context. My whole thought and theory of, should something that big go onto PlayStation, even if it's in the same year, because we know that it's not day and date. It's launching in May for Xbox and PC. At some point, it's been said that it'll be out later this year. Now, from the Japan side of things, it makes perfect sense. We know that Xbox isn't going to sell in Japan. Now, will people buy it on PC in Japan? Absolutely. But we do know that even though the PlayStation 5 and Pro don't sell as well as the Switch and Switch 2 in Japan, it does have a pretty big fan base there. And the fact that this game is going to be in Japan, well, it's going to sell like hotcakes, right? That people in Japan are going to want to play on their home turf. And it's going to sell. I mean, it's their culture. Their Playground Games is tapping into the culture of Japan and its racing scene. This is going to be, I'll say this right now, Fuzzy. I honestly believe, I don't think anything is going to be GTA. Let's not get crazy. But if there was a runner-up, I would say that this game, Forza Horizon 6, if it's released on PC, if it's released on Xbox, and eventually comes to PlayStation, and maybe at some point even the Switch, which I don't know if it's possible, but Resident Evil 9 looks damn good on that, so we'll see. But if it were to release to a multi-plat audience, it would go down for 2026 as one of, not the, most purchased game in gaming. I'm going to say that with definitively, without even having to clear my throat. Literally, that is what would happen. So now, totally you want to say something? Yeah, no, please.
No, I was going to say I totally agree on that. Like the only two games I really see outperforming it this year is GTA 6 and then COD. Call of Duty is out, maybe about the only one, but it's like I don't know. I think it might even rival COD this year. As crazy as that's going to sound, I think there's enough car enthusiasts out there that might set aside their rifles just to drift around the mountain in Japan or drift through the side streets in Tokyo, downtown Tokyo. So we'll see.
Look, there are some people in the chat, because you don't do the names thing here because we don't want to embarrass anybody. Someone wrote Insane Cope. How are we coping? I'm confused. I'm giving you actual points of contention for the conversation that I'm leading here by bringing in multiple reports, multiple articles, and we're giving our own opinion. Now, the question that we'll have to ask is, what does Asha do now? Because, and I've been asking this, and nobody can really come up with an answer because we don't have one right now. The question is, how does she respond to a potential PlayStation a competitor pulling back and taking their toys or their ball off the court and going home? Right? How does that work? Because what we can say definitively is, with all of the games that were released on PlayStation 5, there were only a few highlights. Right? Sea of Thieves did very, very well over there. Right? We know that Forza Horizon 5 did very well, but there were some other smaller titles that didn't. Right? So the question is, what do you put over there? What do you keep for yourself? Now, I'm gonna be honest with you. They're gonna have, and I've said this before, I think Asha and the newly formed team Xbox has a daunting trail ahead of them, because I don't know, and I'm not a marketing manager. I don't have a degree, so I have no idea how would you even do this. How do you bring back excitement to a brand that for the last 2 years said, you know what, Xbox Game Pass, you're going to get your games, but if you're not on Xbox, don't worry, we got a game for you. See, I don't know how you do that. I'm going to be honest with you. Does it start with a Fable? Look, I'll say this about Fable. Outside of what you've seen, well, that's what I've seen. I have not been invited to any secret meetings or anything with, the brass to play the game. I would love somebody to invite me, Xbox, if you're listening. That would be awesome. But I know as much as you. What I do know for an absolute fact is that this game is going to be a Game of the Year contender based on what we've seen. Now, if you don't think so, I'm not going to fight you. You could be a troll or whatever. That's fine. I think it's going to be a Game of the Year contender, and I think a lot of people in this chat believe that as well. Do you now say, you know what? You don't want to look like the bad guy. If Asha doesn't want to look like the bad guy, like we're pulling exclusives and F you, Sony, and console war, right? If you don't want to do that, you say, well, look, you know what? We have to put our Xbox consumers first, and we're going to make the best game we can make for PlayStation, and of course on PC, Xbox for PC. We're going to give our dev team more time to put the finishing touches on the PlayStation 5 version. And what does that ultimately do? Well, that gives you cover, because you're not saying that, hey, man, we're going to hold this for 2 years, because it's going to be, I'm saying this right now, and I'm going to use his name. You're going to get a Ryan McCaffrey to run to the front of the and grab a microphone and be like, well, wait a second, I bought a PlayStation 5 Pro because, and we know he bought it for GTA. And of course, being an Xbox guy, he's probably not playing on Xbox, which is very weird to me, but fine, whatever. Right? He's going to play on the PlayStation 5 Pro. He's going to be the one asking, well, I don't understand. You've already announced it. Why the wait? Is it exclusive? Is it timed exclusive when it's coming out? And I would say, again, if you don't want to be the a-hole holding the microphone, I hear you. But like, listen, you know what? We just need to give more time to the dev team. Right now, we're focused on our Xbox players and our PC players. This is where the game is launching on this date. Go. What are your thoughts on that? Because that is, it's a politically correct way to bring back exclusivity, keep it timed, but also give a reasoning that will not give, and this is going to talk shit anyway, so it doesn't even matter what they say, to be honest with you, but it does allow for some wiggle room on this. Again, this would be a good test to see whether or not it's sold a lot, because people are going to be like, well, I'm playing on Xbox. I'm playing on Xbox Game Pass. They're not going to get a sale from me. But they might get more subscriptions, and that's ultimately the goal, right? Like when Netflix puts out a new film that they spent, I don't know, $200 million making with, star A, B, and C. They're not doing it because they want to, just to satisfy their current customers. No, they want to satisfy them to keep you paying but they want new customers.
Yeah.
And how would you get new customers? And am I suggesting that PlayStation gamers are going to line up to trade in their consoles? I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that if you have hardware that people want, you have games on that piece of hardware that people want, people might buy that game. People might subscribe to your service. This is again, it's a daunting problem, but
Yeah.
I think that they could figure it out. Let's get your thoughts, Fuzzy.
Well, as some people have mentioned in the chat, and we touched on it briefly earlier, that whole "this is for you" deal on the consoles, I think, is a big step forward as far as that's concerned. Pushing that for, let's say, your Xbox One customer base, or just in general, I would like to see them be able to, institute some of that pricing, currently for the consoles that are available out there, just so that way there is more of a draw. And then that way, when you start pulling back announcements on other platforms, and stick to it. Like, I don't want to, badmouth Phil in any way with this, but it was like he got, I guess, fed up of all of the constant questions, even from like McCafferty, like you were saying, when Tomb Raider was like that timed exclusive. When is it coming over? It's like, why are we hounding Xbox as a platform for when their time exclusives or their money hats are coming over, but there's no line or news reports in regards to when a PlayStation money hat is coming over to other platforms? Like it was, and I hate use that same energy phrase, but yeah, there wasn't that same energy at the time for anything that PlayStation was money hatting versus the one that Phil did with Tomb Raider, and then was like, you know what, I don't even like doing these things, probably because people were like constantly inboxing him and messaging him to the point where he wound up probably disconnecting his phone or turning it off and throwing it somewhere. But I think if they start moving forward with, these can only be played on Xbox, PC, and Game Pass, or something to that effect, stop showing PlayStation logos on the trailer. It could come to PlayStation 3 months, 6 months, a year later. Anytime they ask questions, just reiterate it's available on Xbox, PC, and Game Pass, and stick to it. Don't cave no matter how many times they ask. Sure, there'll be 52 million hit pieces on them as far as, well, they're being dodgy now. They're not saying or showing logos, and kind of do away with. And I hate saying that employees can't wear what they want to wear or do what they want to do, but maybe encourage them to promote their own hardware. Like, sure, if a game comes out for the Switch and they own a Switch too, just be like, hey, cool. Don't necessarily take a picture of you playing it. Just be like, oh, it's a cool game. Wish we had something like that, or that should come over to Xbox. Like that should be kind of the spin or the attitude maybe of the employees. And I've seen companies kind of force, social media presence or restrict it to some extent. I'm pretty sure PlayStation has something in the clause. If you start promoting a competing brand, you will probably see your pink slip kind of thing. I don't know this to be 100% true, but there are some that do behind the scenes stuff as far as other Sony related instances. And that is a thing with Sony. And it's been the case for their stereos, TVs in the past when they were the kings of that stuff. So I doubt that attitude has changed any with PlayStation. But when it comes to moving forward, yeah, they really need to continue this focus on console. Like I said earlier, they've said console or focused on the console more in the past couple of weeks than they've done in the past couple of years. They stick to that. Start or stop showing logos for other platforms other than PC, because Windows is them as well. I think it will send a clear message. And sure, you'll have the Christopher Durings and a few other outlets that favor PlayStation, make hit pieces about it and stuff like that. But which would you rather do? Like, if they're not saying when it's coming over and you don't see it in your PlayStation store, are you going to consider getting that series console that's 50% off right now? Or are you going to possibly sign up for a month for that subscription on PC, which you probably already have a PC, or have it where you could play it on a tablet or maybe one of those handheld PCs anyway, I think that might be the way to go. It'd be like, hey, we're not abandoning other platforms. You can still play it on your handheld PCs or your regular PCs or your laptops, your tablets, your phones. That's where the game is available, where Game Pass and Play Anywhere exists, and just leave it at that. And if, let's say, for whatever reason the game underperforms terribly, then maybe a year later you're like, oh, with patch 2.0 or patch 1.7 or whatever, oh, it's coming to PlayStation. Wishlisted in the store today. And then maybe you'll have some people that's pissed off that bought a Series S, a few months prior type of thing, or they signed up for Game Pass to play it on their PC, but you got their money. I mean, I doubt they're going to, FOMO is one of those things where we've seen it with Resident Evil 9. We're seeing it with Crimson Desert. Yep. We see it with a lot of big games. FOMO is one of those things that people, they can only bite at the bit for so many, days, weeks, or months, depending on how popular and how much you see or visibility that game has on social media with, video clips and pics and things like that. Eventually people are like, you know what, screw it. I'll buy this game. And if they're fortunate enough to buy the hardware and the game, great. Maybe even over at those times, start bundling, a Series S with, well, not necessarily with like Forza Horizon 6, but things along those lines. Like have a, even if it's not a custom console, or even if it's just as simple as a sleeve like they've done, which those I hope that they do more of, that would be something that might push somebody over the edge to encourage them to get it, especially if they work with something like GameStop, like, hey, trade in a PS4 and get, the Series S for $220 or something like that. I think those are things that they may want to work on to get those numbers up as far as, potential people in the ecosystem that weren't there, just yesterday kind of thing. So we'll see.
So I started to read before the purexbox.com article. And of course, I transitioned over to something else that we were talking about. But I do want to bring that article back up, Fuzzy, in chat. And I'll reread the headline title. It says, Xbox boss questioned on whether exclusives could return in the future. And that's when she went on to say the plan is the plan until it's not the plan. But I have a more dense quote from her. And I just want to read a little bit of the article, and then we're going to get into that quote. And then we're going to kind of just end the poll, see where that end, what that closed out with. But I have some additional thoughts. So, of course, the author of the article was Fraser Gilbert. I've mentioned him multiple times on this show. He goes on to say this: speaking on a whole range of topics, Sharma was questioned at one point about the potential to revise Xbox current strategy and suggested that nothing is off the table, but that she needs to learn and figure out, quote, what the data says about the Xbox strategy today. So I'm going to read her exact quote in its full. She goes on to say this. The article goes on to say this. When asked what Asha Sharma thought about the idea of returning to exclusive games, she says this, quote, right now, I need to learn candidly about why these decisions, okay. She goes on to say about the why of these decisions, what we were optimizing for, and what the data says about the Xbox strategy today. That's the honest answer. I'm looking at a lifetime value, not just what happened in a previous moment or in the short term, efficiencies and things like that. The plan is the plan until it's not the plan. So this is an important block of information. And again, Fuzzy, I don't know exactly how they do it, but if timed exclusivity, like for instance, let's just bring back Starfield for a second. Starfield is the #1 game on PlayStation Network, or no longer going to be PlayStation Network. It's going to be called something else, but PSN for right now. And it's the #1 paid for game. This game is over 2 years old. It would have been a 3-year gap between PlayStation and Xbox if it would have lasted until September of this year, but it's coming out soon. I believe it's next month. So when it does launch on the 7th of April, it's going to have like 2 years and a couple of months. but that's still a long exclusivity. Now, there are people in the chat that will argue if a game comes out too later on another platform, it won't sell well. And they'll use the logic of what has happened to some of PlayStation's games, where they stayed significantly longer as console exclusives on the PS5. And then when they went over to PC, they had success, but it was mild success.
Yeah.
Now that's not what's happening here. Now, again, it's the number one selling game right now. We'll see if that lasts. How obviously we have to wait for the game to come out, for the sales to be posted by Circana, whoever else is going to post it. But the question, and again, there's a lot of questions here. We don't have a lot of answers, but we will in the coming months, because Asha and the team at Xbox are going to have to decide whether or not having long-term success on a game is putting it out day and date on PlayStation, or holding that particular game, not all IP, but that particular game back so you can sell to your fans first on Xbox, on PC. Now, and listen, Fuzzy, you've heard this before. Not saying anything that's you've never heard before, but one of the biggest quotes from a lot of purists, and I'm talking to diehard, we're talking fanboys here. They felt like second-class citizens with Xbox. Now, I don't agree with that, folks. Listen, I have it in Game Pass. I buy every deluxe edition add-on that they have. And obviously, I don't buy it if they're giving me the game to review. They usually include it. But if it doesn't come with it, like for instance, when I didn't get Black Ops 6 or 7. I paid for that. But I didn't have to buy the game. I bought the Vault Edition. I spent the $30. I upgraded. And if there's a game that does come to Xbox that is first party that offers that, Fuzzy, I will buy that. So they're still getting money from me. Mm-hmm. It's not the full $108 that they would get if I was buying the game outright, but I don't have to buy it. I mean, they're getting my monthly subscription, so they're still getting money, and I'm buying the deluxe edition content. So they're still getting money. Now, again, maybe that's not what they really want. They want the full-on sale, $108 times, 10 million players, but that's why you have a subscription service. I will say this before I hand you back to Mike and get your other opinions on this, is I am not in the camp, and I will absolutely 10 toes down say this. Taking games from first party out of Xbox Game Pass to be able to say that I have an exclusive, no way, fam. I'm not about that life. If they have to figure out a way to do both. I don't know how they get there, but again, if you're trying to attract people to the current hardware, which it seems like they're trying to do, that is a reinvigorated plan to sell their current hardware as we all wait for what's going to potentially happen in holiday of next year, right? We know that it's going to be their console that they're making. We don't know if OEMs are going to release before that or after. And they're going to have to figure out a way to sell these new consoles, not only to us, we're all buying them, but they're going to have to figure out a way to sell these new players that might be on PC. Because again, I keep saying this, they're not targeting PlayStation 5 gamers. They'll sell the games there because they're already invested. They're trying to get the PC audience who has, crappy hardware that they're running games in 1080p to upgrade to this new box that does everything that their PC does and a bag of chips, right? So any additional thoughts before we read the super chats and we get on out of here?
Yeah, I think the big thing is it is going to be tricky diverting from that plan. And I agree with you. I am not for taking the first party day and dates out of Ultimate. Like, yeah, I'm subscribed until 2028 through points and other cards I've purchased during the holidays and things like that. But yeah, that's a change I'm not looking forward to. I think the big thing, if they want to get more people to buy the actual games, they're going to have to, one, go back to the pricing that they had for the discounts, like within the first 30 days, and then the deeper discount after the first 30 days. I think that being taken away slowed me down a little bit on some of the purchases. Um, I guess the other thing is make sure the discount persists for those on, Ultimate, as far as for all the additional skins and things like that, or additional coins, or whatever, microtransactions they offer. Um, sure, they have the perks and stuff like that, but if I'm not a Fortnite player, I could care less about the perks. I haven't played. There's this one extraction shooter called Vigor. I haven't played that in like forever. PUBG, which I bought way back in the day, I haven't gone back to that in quite a long time. So if you're giving me a general discount on the microtransactions of the games that are either in or around Game Pass, or just in general on the store, I'd gladly pick and choose where I spend my money on the coins and things for the games that I actually play, as opposed to perks that are completely useless to me. So yeah, I hope they find a way to, one, maintain those games in their day and date. And as crazy as it sounds, and I know this is probably anti-mathematically viable, I bought a lot more games when they were 60. There were games I would buy without even thinking twice on it. So when they were 60, it's like, okay, I'm interested in these 6 games. Guess what? They're all pre-ordered. I don't think twice about it. I probably won't get to 5 of them before they're, in Game Pass for free type of deal. But when they were 60, I didn't think about it. When they're 70, it's like, all right, I'll get 2 of them. Or maybe I'll just get the one that I know I'm going to play, when that thing comes out, because I'm looking to get the deluxe edition, or I'm looking to get, the extended DLC and things along those lines. So I doubt that they could revert their pricing back to 60 just to see if they get more unit sales. But maybe that's the case for if you're a Game Pass subscriber. Maybe the price magically goes down to 60. And at that point, because that's when I was buying the most games, being subscribed to Game Pass, and then trying to pick and choose the games that I kind of thought wouldn't wind up in Game Pass, and buying those, as soon as they're up for pre-order and stuff like that. I mean, there's a number of things that they could probably wiggle around with and get to work, but yeah, that's one I hope they don't consider changing. But if they want to do more timing between the release to multiplat, that's fine. Heck, I'm hoping Matt Booty is whispering in Asha's ear about money hatting stuff. The thing that Phil was, completely opposed to. Maybe they start doing that to the point where it makes it counterproductive for Sony. I don't necessarily want to have them money hat stuff just so I can be like, oh, Xbox got this game. It's more like, hey,
Right.
PlayStation, stop being an a-hole and grabbing these games kind of thing, and then holding on to a contract that prevents it from going over for 2 years. Maybe if Microsoft starts doing that and picking and choosing some of the good ones, and they've been doing a pretty good job, over these years, but the ones that come to Game Pass day and date and stuff, go a little bit further, and maybe that changes Sony's trajectory or their MO as far as what they do moving forward. And maybe it now becomes more of a thing where you lock your current player base into the ecosystem with better pricing on the games that they want to play or want to buy, or the DLC to the live service games that your player base is interested in. And I still think that would be a win-win for all the platforms at that point. I mean, I don't think Xbox could go to Nintendo's, exclusivity model. It'd be nice to see them try, but I don't think it would, give the results that we had all hoped for, kind of thing, from years ago or years gone when it comes to the console war. But don't shake up Game Pass too much, or at least the ultimate tier, other than maybe get rid of Fortnite and let me get full thing of Ubisoft Plus or whatever. That's my only suggestion, but I know that's a wish and a dream kind of thing.
I mean, again, I don't know how they do it. Taking from the service, in my opinion, is recipe for disaster, because when you say, when you have tiers, right, and your top tier is called Ultimate, you expect it to be an Ultimate package, not a, well, we were doing Ultimate at some point. Now we've kind of like changed the tier to it being Ultimate negative, or not as Ultimate tier. However whatever you want to call it. I don't think that's the answer. If the game is good, the game is a quote banger, it's going to sell. Will it sell on PC? Yes. Will it sell on Xbox? Absolutely. Will it bring people to PC Game Pass and Xbox Game Pass for console? I think it would. What's a game or games that will do that? Gears of War E-Day, Forza Horizon 6, Fable. Now, I'm not saying that, you might be asking, well, why didn't you mention Halo? Well, Halo, it's a new Halo, but it's a new old Halo. And listen, it's one of my most anticipated games of the year because I'm a Halo stan. I don't make any apologies for it at all. I freaking can't wait to play through that campaign and do it on Legendary and see those graphics and experience what I did 100 years ago on my Series X, and it's made for it. Yes, please. If there are collector's editions for these things, I'm not in the group for Xbox that gets those. At least not yet. I don't think I ever will be. I would have been there already, Fuzzy. But I do get these games for review, and I'm always incredibly grateful that I do get a chance to review a lot of their games. But their collector's editions, if there are any, you can bet your ass I'm going to buy them because I like collectibles, and I like showing off a statue of a Master Chief or a Marcus Phoenix or whatever, whatever. But this has been one hell of a conversation. Again, at some point, we're going to talk about this on one of the other shows, Fuzzy. Shout out to I Am the Broke Boy. It's me, the Broke Boy, in the chat. He sent me this. Now, this doesn't. This is your games media, ladies and gentlemen. This is your games media. This is an article that he sent me. It comes from techradar.com. And I love the title because it just goes on to show you that these websites console war more than even the freaking trolls. Shout out to the Xbox owners for beta testing Starfield ahead of its PlayStation 5 launch next month. That's the title, ladies and gentlemen. That is the title from TechRadar. We're not going to have that conversation today. I want to see how many others follow this lead. I'm actually surprised that we didn't see one from IGN. To be honest with you, I cannot believe it. And I've already said my piece about how the newly formed Xbox team under the new management of Asha Sharma. Listen, Paris is somewhere lurking. He may not be in the chat, and if I missed you, Paris, my apologies, brother. Chat was going super quick. I apologize. He's going to disagree with me. He's probably disagree with me before I even say it. I am sorry, but if you are going to be a D-bag and you're going to besmirch the brand, further damaging it than it already is damaged, you're getting the block hand. That is what I am not doing. Now, again, they literally just got IGN just got a big update for Forza. Now, obviously, they're a big conglomerate. They reach a lot of people. I know why you would do that, but if you don't put a stop to the Ryan McCaffreys and the Polygons and things of that, they will continue to curb stomp you and not care because they're using negativity to help their own clique, but ruin your brand. Again, I could spend an hour on that. We're not going to do that here, but I do want to catch up on Super Chat. It's been a couple of them. And if you disagree with me, that's fine. I've always said this, Fuzzy, and maybe you agree, maybe you don't. I think IGN needs Xbox more than Xbox needs IGN. That's just my take on it. Now you may say no, there's no way because they have so many people, so many viewers. Yeah, I guess, but there are other places to go, in my opinion. But let me catch up on Super Chats. We have The first one of It's Me, the Broke Boy. It says, boom, check out the article I sent you in your messages. Yeah, brother, I just made mention of it. Shout out to It's Me, the Broke Boy, for the very generous $2 super chat. We have Adidas 20. Salute to you, kind sir. He says this after dropping a very generous $2 super chat. Salute. And that, of course, salute right back at you, brother. Gamer by Choice drops a very generous $10 super chat. He says, I think PlayStation is worried that these devices that they have that have multiple storefronts is a threat. I think they fear console sale loss. I hope that they do not destroy themselves. We want gaming to be healthy. Look, I don't know if again, listen, I don't have the books in front of me, folks, and even if I did, I wouldn't even know what the hell I would be looking at. I don't know the numbers like that. What I can say, and I think it's a fair point. We said it earlier. If they retreat away from putting games that are single player, story driven, narrative focused games that people buy PlayStations for. Now, granted, not everyone does. 15% of the audience does. I'm one of those 15%ers. I have a PlayStation 5 because I like their single player games. Now, if you don't, I hear you. I'm not going to fight with you over it, but that's why I have a PlayStation 5. We know that the PlayStation 5 player base, and I say 15% is the hardcore. It's less than that, folks. It's probably less than 9%. It's a very, very small number, but I'm just, giving the extra just for the sake of the conversation. 85+% buy this console because they've moved on in their teenager life from playing on the PS3, the PS4, the PS5. They're going to buy a PlayStation 6. They're fans. They like the brand. There's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with being a PlayStation fan. If that is your vibe, then that's what you should play on. But they don't buy it for God of War, the one with the wife. They won't buy it for Soros. They won't buy. Maybe they'll buy it for Wolverine. That's a Marvel character. That's totally different. Maybe they'll buy it for that, but they're not going to buy it for the next God of War or the Uncharted or the next Horizon 17 that we get. They're not buying it for that. They're buying it for Fortnite. They're buying it for 2K. They're buying it for WWE. Pick your flavor. Grand Theft Auto, whatever. It's the cool console. It's the most popular console. If they retreat from PC altogether with their first-party games, and of course, if they're leaving PC, they're leaving Xbox. What does that look like? Will their fan base, meaning the diehards as well as the normies, will they make up the $2.3 or $2.4 billion that we talked about in the story? I'm with Fuzzy. I don't think so, man. That is a big, big ask. And I don't think Sony, listen, they're going to do what they're going to do. If they announce that they're pulling back from PC, the trolls and the stands are going to champion like it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Let's see if they make that money back. But you might be onto something. I don't know if it's destroying themselves. I will say Sony depends on that money because they don't make money anywhere else. Their movies make some money if they're a big hit, like Spider-Man. Brand New Day is going to make $1 billion easily, right? But we will certainly see. Pragmatic Eagle, what's up, brother? Thanks so much for being here as always, folks. He's been a channel member for a redonkulous 78 months, brother. We're probably around that long. Like we're going on. This year would be 9 years. November 3rd will be 9 years that we're doing YouTube. That's insane generosity. Thank you so much for the outstanding support. He says something that's very true. You are seriously underestimating how serious and stupid tribalism is in this country and these days. These people are crazy. They will hate until they die. I know. Look, I'm all about unicorns and rainbows all day long in my side of town. Like I like being happy. My glass is always half full rather than half empty. I'm always going to enjoy gaming. I'm not going to use hate-driven content, which would probably get me more subs, but we won't do it here. Otherwise, I'll quit the fucking business. If I have to be a hateful POS, I'm out. I'll go back to playing games because this is a lot of work. So you're not wrong. You're not wrong. First of all, tribalism is stupid. I don't think you should be I don't think that should exist, but it does. It's man. It's just people are going to be people. But listen, I hope that you had as much fun as I did. I hope you found the conversation as engaging. And before we get on out of here, let me close the poll. But before we do, 196 votes, or 200 votes now. And here is the total before I end the poll. When asked, are Xbox exclusives important to you as a gamer and why? 50% of the chat said, absolutely bring back exclusives. 35% said no, exclusives are not important. And 15%, of course, and this is the funny one, bring back the console wars. So that's how it's gonna Fuzzy Belvedere. And look, I had a great time. These are original topics. We do use a lot of articles, all of these articles, and I will try at least make one video. I don't think I'm going to make two, but I'm definitely making one of this because I think it's a conversation that people are going to want to listen to and potentially talk about because the exclusive commentary is hot right now. But Fuzzy Belvedere, let's get everyone out of here and starting with yourself. Sell the brand, brother. Where can people not only subscribe to your YouTube channel, which is going to be, folks, the best place for all the coverage surrounding Forza Horizon 6. Your wife also has a horror podcast, and I believe you did this past week, Ready or Not 2, if I'm not mistaken. And if you missed it live, folks, you can definitely check it on the replay. Sell the brand. Where can people subscribe to her YouTube channel? And more importantly, follow both of you on social media.
Well, as always, Boom, I love doing this on Monday afternoons, talking about the industry, talking about games and hardware and everything involved that we're looking forward to between now and the showcase and throughout the year even. And love interacting with the chat. I love the, even though some of it, I wouldn't say heated debate, but it's you can see the passion or the thought in the debates on exclusivity versus not. Love that interaction. Love seeing how people either love the games or love the brand or a mix of both type of deal. That's what we're here for is, gamers. We're fans of the hobby basically. And it's always awesome to see. So as always, tackle that backlog. There's more and more games coming out every day that we're going to have to make time or make room for. So do your best to tackle that backlog. And like Boom said, for those that are looking forward to Forza Horizon 6, subscribe to my channel. I put the link in the chat, as well as the link to my wife's YouTube channel in the chat. I'm going to, at some point, do this live video for my thoughts on some of the more recent news. It's almost like every time I go to do it, it's like, oh, more news came out. So I got to kind of make some notes and things. But we'll be doing a video this week on Forza Horizon 6 and some things that they've mentioned as far as the customization that a lot of us have been looking forward to. And, just can't wait until May. And then as far as on the horror scene, we did a show about Ready or Not and Ready or Not 2. Both are great movies. Highly recommend watching them if you haven't already. The 2 just came into theaters. I think it was last Friday. I gave it an 8, and the original one I gave a 7.5. So this was one of those where I think the sequel did a little bit better than the original. Okay. But check out the podcast. We go off the rails sometimes, so it's always a fun time to hang out. 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Fridays. Come check us out. I think we're finally going to do Dark Skies that I've been promising all this time before this coming Friday. So if you've already seen it, hope to see you in the chat. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out, especially if you're into the mysterious UFO sightings, abduction, and things like that. It's a worthwhile movie to check out, and just come hang out with us and have a good conversation. But as always, be safe out there. Play some games. Less Twitter, more games. You'll be happier for it.
I absolutely agree. And Dark Skies, by the way, was excellent. Mrs. Boom and I really enjoyed that film. I think you guys would like it also. So definitely check that out. And I can't wait to have that conversation. But ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for us here. Of course, everything that we use for, context in the conversation today will be in the show notes of the actual live stream on YouTube. And of course, I will, when necessary, bring up those articles in visual format when I redo the videos, because I am going to cut down this second half of the show and make it into a video. And a lot of people are really enjoying the content. I'm not going to do it with every topic because the production of 3 of them, let's say, for instance, we have 3 topics. it's a lot. It's a lot of back end production work, which I like actually playing games, and I'm finding myself when I do too many videos, I don't get a chance to freaking do that. So I want to at least one topic per show, especially if it's a big one like today with exclusives versus timed exclusives. We'll make a video out of that. And if you don't have the whole 90 minutes, which is what we spent here today to listen, you'll at least be able to say, "Oh, I this topic is important to me," and you go into the video section and it'll be there. And to be quite honest, those videos, I don't know what it is. I'm not going to complain, but the last 12 videos that I have done, we have eclipsed 25,000 views with those 11 videos, which is insane numbers for a channel this small. It's again, I'm not being facetious, folks. We're still a small channel. To get that kind of viewage, people are really enjoying the content, and we've somehow slipped into the algorithm of content that people want to watch in here. We've gotten a lot of new subs, so we're a pinch under 300 away from 17K. Folks, if you're not already subscribed, please consider subscribing. Mrs. Boom and I would really appreciate you helping us cross another big goal for us, and maybe because it's the 25th anniversary of Xbox, we'll be able to celebrate 20,000 viewers or subscribers by the end of the year. I don't know if that's going to happen, but we're going to give it the old college effort, as the kids like to say. But of course, a big thank you to all of the super chats that have come in, the channel member chats, and the gifted subs that continue to come in. Mrs. Boom and I do greatly appreciate the generosity. And we're going to close out the show with something that's incredibly important to me, folks. Hopefully one day will be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. He'd say, "Craig, treat others how you want to be treated." And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Lunch Break Special.